You sitting right here, sitting in your authentic self, and even on the hard days.
The reality is that we all have trauma. We all have things that have happened to us in our lives. And some of us have little t traumas and some of us have big T traumas.
This kind of work allowed you to feel the pain on the outside.
That's our brain doing its job. It's protecting us so that we don't have to feel what's happening in the moment because it's too overwhelming, and especially when we're young.
What is your hope with writing this book?
I want to be the person to give them permission to not be in relationship with someone who's hurting you. And I never had that before. And so I would choose that a million times over.
And you had an Aunt Pat.
I did.
Who maybe are in that dark place right now and are looking at you as a glimmer.
Step away from everybody who dims your light. And I say that to my daughter all the time.
Today's show is brought to you by Brave Healer Productions. Experience what's possible. Coming up on today's show is Kimberly Shannon Murphy, Hollywood's go-to stunt woman who has stunt doubled for A-list celebrities like Cameron Diaz, Angelina Jolie, and Taylor Swift, to name a few. She's here to share about her inspiring new book, Glimmer, which chronicles her story from one of abuse to becoming Hollywood's most successful stunt woman. Plus, I'm chatting with some peeps on the street on Sharing with Shari and sharing the good news you should know about on the Joy Report. It's all coming up next, so don't go anywhere. Good morning, sunshine. Today's weather is brought to you by our pals at It's Always Sunny Where I Stand. Hey, if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, don't worry, just gear up with a smile because it's gonna be so bright, even your bad mood won't stand a chance. Remember, no matter the weather outside, it's always sunny in our hearts here at Joy News. Keep shining. Joining me right now is Hollywood's go-to stunt woman and author. Kimberly Shannon Murphy has stunted for top A-list celebrities like Charlize Theron, Uma Thurman, Angelina Jolie, all my people. She has worked alongside people like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, jumping from buildings, out of windows. But I will say that I believe the bravest thing that she has done that I know of has been stopping, taking a breath, and turning inward. Joining me now is Kimberly Shannon Murphy, author of the amazing book, Glimmer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here for so many reasons. We were talking, before we started, and, I try, of course, I read people's books.
Yes.
There's only so much you can do as a host with reading, but I could not put yours down. And I kept going, okay, just one more page. And that one more page turned into the entire book. It was so well written.
Thank you so much. I have had an amazing ghostwriter and we were a great team. So I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, it was, as I was reading it, I was thinking, I saw it as a film. I think that's what really drew me in was I just saw every scene like unfold before me.
Yes.
Was that written that way?
Yes, we wrote it very cinematically because I want to make it a film. That is my goal with it all. So yes, and even one chapter is written as a screenplay. So yes, that was the goal of it, was to write it as a movie.
I said the bravest thing that you've done is what I believe has turned inward with that inner love. And we're going to really dive into self-love today. But I'm curious, from the Hollywood life, how did that begin for you?
I was a dancer and a gymnast my whole childhood, and in my early 20s got in with Alvin Ailey, and I was dancing with their professional program, which is before you enter the company. And then I started doing acrobatics with a company called Anti-Gravity out of New York, which is sort of like a Cirque du Soleil company, traveling the world doing that. then a lot of my friends were getting into stunts, and, you know, they're like, you should send your stuff in. I was living in New York, and I sent it to like the stunt coordinator in New York, and he called me the next week to double for Uma Thurman, and that was my first film, and I never stopped working 22 years later.
It's so interesting because, you know, for those who haven't read your book, which they need to, you know, you write about interesting things. You talked about in there about this kind of work allowed you to feel the pain on the outside.
Yes.
Did you know that right off the bat?
Definitely not. I think, you know, to give a brief summary, I was abused by my maternal grandfather my entire childhood and lived in a very toxic family system. My mother, it was a generational abuse. My mother was abused as well. And it was all I knew. I only knew hurt and pain and dysfunction. And not to say that's what the stunt world is at all, but I think being a stunt woman, I really connected with in the sense of the pain that came with some of the work that I did was something that I really connected with. And it didn't dawn on me until I started working on myself how connected that was to what had happened to me as a child.
You know, what I found powerful in reading your book, and, you know, is the name of your book, Glimmer.
Yes.
Was this desire, this to want to understand and to want to know what happened and to explore that. Do you think that that is something that has driven you your whole life to this healing place, this place of healing?
I think I was partly born like that. I think that we all come into this world and we all have our own stories and we all have things that happen to us. I mean, no human doesn't go through some sort of pain in their life. And this was my path. And I do believe that it was meant to be my path. And I think that this is what I was meant to do with it, was to tell my story, to help other survivors. I feel like it's an honor and a privilege to be able to speak out about what happened to me, because I know so many people feel disabled by it, and so many people are. And I feel really honored to be able to have some sort of platform that I've built for myself to be a voice for people that don't feel like they have one or feel like they're stuck.
Yeah, I asked that question because there's, you know, as I shared with you before, you know, as being a survivor thriver myself, there was this moment that I felt when the abuse was happening, this light inside that I distinctly remember and thinking, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And you talk about in your book about your inner child.
Yes.
And her being the glimmer for you.
Yes.
And so I was just curious if you have felt that for most of your life, this, you know, because you're throwing yourself out of buildings, you're getting in toxic relationship, but was there this part of you that knew that ultimately you were going to be okay?
I always knew I was going to be okay. And I don't know really where that came from, to be honest with you. And I think you probably feel the same way. And like I said, I do think that part of me was born with it. And I do think that a part of me was also like had this power of, I'm not going to let him take my life away from me. So he's already done all of these horrible things to me, but what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do with it? So I chose to write a book and to speak about it and to become an advocate for sexual abuse survivors. And I think that it is the bravest and best thing that I could have done with what I was given.
It is. And I say that wholeheartedly because, you know, being able to use your life and the things that have happened to be able to help others and serve others. And, you know, I call the show Good Morning Joy because for me, joy is the full alignment with our true selves, with our inner selves, with who we are.
Yes.
And people often see joy as, you know, they always say the butterflies and the rainbows. But for me, it's you sitting right here, sitting in your authentic self.
Yes.
And even on the hard days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we all have trauma. We all have things that have happened to us in our lives. And some of us have little t traumas and some of us have big T traumas. But, you know, there's a quote that says, you can drown in 1 foot of water or 50 feet of water, it's still drowning. And so I don't believe in the comparison of trauma. I believe that everybody's story is important, and that in order to live in our authentic truth, that we need to connect back to ourselves, and connecting back to ourselves means connecting back to our inner child and going back to those hard spots so that we can live a fulfilled, loving life. It's truly the only way, because you can't ignore it. And if you do, you're not living in a real authentic space.
Would you say that your healing, your continued healing, because it's always going on, would you say that that is mainly in part to, or all in part to, connecting back to yourself? Because you talk about being disconnected in body and everything.
Yes. Well, when you're abused, as you know, there's a huge disconnect that happens, and that's our brain doing its job. It's protecting us so that we don't have to feel what's happening in the moment because it's too overwhelming, and especially when we're young. And I came from a family of people who were completely disconnected from themselves. And I didn't want to live like that anymore. And I wanted to be able to know and feel what it felt like to be connected with myself. And unfortunately, I had to do a lot of things and separate myself from a lot of people, family members, in order for that to happen. But through that journey, I've gained myself, and I never had that before. And so I would choose that a million times over.
And you had an Aunt Pat.
I did.
And I loved Aunt Pat. She was everything that everybody should have.
Yes.
Everyone should. Can you talk a little bit about her?
Yes. And you only need one person. And she was my one person. She was my grandfather's daughter. She was the first person to come forward about him abusing her when she was 9 years old. And it was ignored and shut down and not believed. And so she just stayed silent. And in turn, there was another generation of children that were being hurt. But when I came forward with my memories, she was my light and my person, and really closer to me than I was with my own mother. And a lot of her writing is in my book. She was an incredible writer. She gave me my first journal. She was like, just write all the things, write anything. And she got Alzheimer's about 20 years ago. She just passed a few years back, but she developed Alzheimer's, I believe, because of what had happened to her, and that she was stuffing so much down, and she wasn't able to carry the burden of what had happened. But she gave me everything, and I wouldn't be sitting here without her. And
And the book is published through HarperCollins, because that was her dream.
She always wanted to be published by HarperCollins. And I remember she would write I gave her a journal when I was in my early 20s. And I was like, let's write back and forth to each other. And so I have so much of her writing, which so much of it is in the book. And that was her dream. She was like, I just want to be published by HarperCollins one day. So I was able to tell her when she was sick, as she wasn't talking at the time, but I whispered in her ear, like, I did it, Aunt Pat. Like, we're going to be published by HarperCollins, and your words are going to be out there in the world. And it was published before she died. So
we had the show promoting in Times Square, billboard, and I used to walk with my grandmother there and tell her one day I was going to be on a billboard.
That's awesome.
And so I wore her gloves that day. She had passed, like, to have that connection. So it really touched me a lot that you've been able to do that. Cameron Diaz wrote the foreword for your book, and in it she talks about how you are one of her greatest teachers. Who's been one of your greatest teachers?
She's been one of my greatest teachers. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't have the book would not have been where it was without her. She was a huge person in my life. I met her at a time that was really dark for me. And she was an example of a woman that I had never seen before, who was really beautiful and confident and lovely and kind, and a heart full of just love for everybody that she met. And she gave me the gift of teaching me how to be a good person. I didn't have many good female role models in my life. And so when I met her, it was like I clung on to her in the sense of, oh my gosh, this is how I want to walk through the world, watching how she was walking through the world. And she has been one of my greatest teachers.
You can feel that love from both sides through the book.
Yeah.
And just that respect. And, you know, everybody needs an Aunt Pat and a Cameron and a Kimberly in their life. What is your hope with writing this book?
It's already happening. I mean, it's, you know, it's been out a year and a half, maybe not even a year and a half. And I have connected with so many incredible doctors through it, most of them that endorsed my book. And this is a topic that isn't spoken about enough. It should be. And especially when it happens within a family system, people feel so silenced because most people are still in relationship with the people that have abused them. I want to be the person to give them permission to not be in relationship with someone who's hurting you. And that's really important to me.
As I say, I like do all these stunts and throw yourself out a window, this adrenaline rush, all of that. What are the things now, like quietly or not, that give you that same feeling inside or that feeling of joy of, you know, every day in your life?
Just being able to wake up and show up for myself and for my daughter in a way that nobody showed up for me in my life, and to be able to give my daughter a life that I never had.
And you are, just by being the example that you are, talking about it. And there's so much power in your story. And being so open about it. I know, I see the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You're healing so many. For those who are watching right now, who maybe are in that dark place right now and are looking at you as a glimmer of hope for them, or any words, something that they can do right now?
Step away from everybody who dims your light. And I say that to my daughter all the time, but it's across the board for everybody. If you're with or around somebody where you feel like you have to make yourself small or it dims your light, this is not someone who is going to help you move forward into a positive place in your life. And it could be your mother, and it could be your father, and it could be your sisters or your brothers. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, all you have is you.
And you and we and who we are is powerful. We are going to take a quick break, and I'm going to keep you here because we're going to have some fun. Back to your Hollywood lifestyle when we come back.
Okay.
Stay right there. Ana Victoria Espino de Santiago has just made history as the world's first lawyer with Down syndrome, earning her law degree from a university in Mexico. Born in 1999, Ana Victoria has continually shattered expectations, proving that her condition is no barrier to achieving greatness. With her parents' unwavering support, she's not only excelled academically, but also made her mark in the arts with her paintings featured in prestigious exhibitions. In 2019, Ana Victoria decided to pursue law, driven by a passion for human rights. She's now focused on advocating for people with disabilities and aims to become a local deputy. Her incredible journey is a shining example of how determination can break down barriers. Congratulations, Ana Victoria. So one of the things that I love about my show is being able to connect with viewers. A viewer recently wrote in to Dear Shari and asked, when things are bad physically and mentally, and I just can't shake the blues, what do? I feel so guilty about it. If we're shaking anything around here, let's shake off that guilt. Guilt is like the friend who shows up to your party uninvited and then eats all the snacks. It's a total waste of energy. Instead, let's give ourselves a big old dose of compassion. During tough times, a little extra love goes a long way. Start with a hug. And yes, I'm talking about hugging yourself. Feel all the feels, and then do something that brings you a spark of joy. Like calling a friend who always makes you laugh. It's not gonna solve everything, but remember, joy is often found in the small moments. So go ahead and fill your cup with those micro joys. All right, so I'm back with Kimberly Shannon Murphy, and I totally just threw myself under the bus here. We are going to be playing something similar, if you're old enough to remember, like $25,000 Pyramid. I'm going to be giving clues of movies that star women in action-based film, and we're each going to get 90 seconds to guess as many as we can.
Okay.
And I'm going to start. Okay, so the movie is, so they fly in the sky, and they eat things. She's blonde, she stars in it. Harley Quinn, I think, was the character's name.
Oh, gee. Well,
It's an animal that flies in
Suicide Squad? No.
No, I probably screwed that one up too.
Harley Quinn is Suicide Squad.
Okay,
or
then no. So think about a parakeet is what?
a bird.
Yes. So I'm giving,
And
and they eat things. They like go after their,
prey.
yes.
Birds of prey.
Yes.
I didn't see it. Okay.
Okay. So this was Scarlett Johansson in it. And futuristic. I
Black
think.
Widow.
No. Okay. I love.
Lucy.
Yep. Okay. I told you I'm terrible. This is Scarlett Johansson. She. A bomb goes off.
Is it Black Widow?
No. Your color hair.
Blonde.
That's the second one.
Oh, Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
No, that's Charlize Theron.
Okay. See how good I am at
See.
this. I'm giving you wrong. Okay. So Spider-Man makes a.
Woman.
Yes, probably. The spiders weave.
Web. Spider.
And-
Madam Web.
Thank you. Oh, same kind. So you're wearing a.
Skirt.
What color?
Black. Black Widow.
yeah.
It's finally.
She's Asian actress. She just won an Oscar a couple of years ago. It's multiple timelines. They take place on in universes, in universal things, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. She has like a co-starring role. They work in a laundromat. This woman and her husband.
No.
You could pass.
Laundromat. Not
Laundromat,
Avatar.
Asian woman. She won the Oscar. She's the first Asian American woman to win an Oscar.
I don't watch the Oscars because we're not nominated.
Okay, laundromat. Jamie Lee Curtis. They go in and out of. They go into a janitor closet.
I gotta pass this.
Okay.
I'm not gonna know it.
Okay, Sandra Bullock is in this, and it's all about being friendly. The name of the movie. You can win like think of a pageant, and they always give out the different.
Yeah, I know the movie. I know exactly the movie. I see the poster in my brain,
You are
but I
so friendly.
can-
She should win.
pass.
Oh.
These are older movies. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we're older.
Well, some of them are
I'm
newer.
older.
Okay. This movie just came out. My husband actually directed Second Unit, and my daughter was in it. It was filmed in Oklahoma. It's a lot of wind. A lot of wind.
Twisters?
Yeah. Okay, this is the blank of a ship.
The bow? The ship?
The person who's in charge of the ship.
The captain?
Yeah.
Captain America?
No.
No, Captain Marvel.
Yes. Okay, this is Jennifer Gardner, and she
Peppermint.
No.
Oh.
She also it was just in Deadpool as well, her character. Not electric, but
Unelectric?
it's like
Boogaloo.
very similar to that word, but
Fire, electric, lightning.
I think you're gonna want to pass.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cameron was in this movie, and Drew Barrymore and
Charlie's
Lucy
Angels.
Liu. Yep. This is the first one was Jennifer Lawrence, and they're on an island and they have bow and arrows and.
Hunger Games?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I won.
Well, I mean, you definitely won at like giving better clues than I did. I didn't know any of the movies. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for entertaining me with this. Thank you for being you, for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to ask you one last question because I do everybody. I kind of alluded to it, but what is something that not a lot of people know about you that secretly brings you joy?
Eating pretzels in bed.
Oh, perfect. With Nutella?
No.
Okay.
Just pretzels. And I like to put them in ginger ale because it makes them smushy.
I love that. And now it's time to go talk to some peeps on the street on today's. So we are live on Good Morning Joy on Sharing with Shari, and I am here with
Dominique
Dominique. And where are you from, Dominique?
from the Netherlands.
And what is your name?
Pete. I'm Ricky
And where are you from, Ricky?
at North London.
I felt stupid asking that question because I knew they were Brits. What's your name?
Matt. Hi.
Hi. So we are going to play a fun game of how well do they know each other. So what I'll ask is that I'll ask a question and you close your eyes and you're either going to point at yourself or at each other. Are y'all set?
Yep.
First, how long have you been together?
30 years.
Okay, so if they do not know each other, we might have a problem. Who is the more romantic one? Out loud.
Okay. Who said I love you first? Who takes longer to get ready? She's the talker here. That's okay. Who's the better cook? Who's more likely to forget an anniversary or a special date? Looks like someone needs to be broken up with. Who's more likely to start an argument? Who spends more time on their phone? Is that a problem for both of you? Who is the bigger spender? Who is more likely to binge watch an entire season in one night? Who's more likely to cry during a movie? Who's the better gift giver? Uh-oh, this one might break up a relationship. And last question, who plans the vacation and trips? Who is the better dancer? All right, and can you show us, whoever answered that, can you show us your best dance move? Awesome. Well, I'm happy to report that for the most part, you got the same answers. There were some hesitation, but yeah, I would say that you both did fairly well. There were some, some, but for the most part, thank you both so much.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I will see you next time on Good Morning Joy, where every day starts with a smile.